So I'm Pam Gutman. I'm the Regional Director for Advanced Transportation for the California Community Colleges here in the Bay Area. What that means is I work with the transportation programs for the colleges that have programs in aviation, automotive, and in drones. And this morning we're going to be talking about advanced air mobility. And this is an area that I particularly have a great passion for. I have been extraordinarily lucky to be working in the field of transportation, because transportation has been absolutely transforming before our very eyes. And we are so fortunate today to have three of our partners in advanced air mobility to share with you what they're doing in the world of eVTOLs and autonomous aircraft, some of which seem like out of another age completely. But they are getting very, very close to joining the other aircraft in the sky. And for our students, this is a tremendous opportunity to partner with people who are pioneers in absolutely new technology and new aircraft. And it's our good fortune to have them with us today to share with us the skills that our students are going to need to be successful in those careers going forward. Because what we're preparing them for now comes close, but not quite the whole bill of wax or what they need for careers going forward. So today, we are very lucky to have with us three employers. Pika, who is in Alameda and quite close by to my home college, and she's working in the area of advanced aircraft that's autonomous and working and providing crop dusting services autonomously. And they're doing that currently in certain countries around the world and soon in our own backyards. And then we have both Joby and Wisk Aero, who are very, very close to getting all of what they need in the area of eVTOLs. And they're going to explain all that to you. And I'm hopefully going to sign up for one of the first rides ever in that area. I'm very excited. They don't know that, but I'm going to do that. And then we have UC Berkeley here with us today because I found out not too long ago that UC Berkeley is doing some exciting things in the world of advanced transportation. And they're going to hopefully be working with us, partnering with the community colleges in this capacity, because I see tremendous opportunity for us to work together going forward, because we're going to be sharing our skill sets, our knowledge, and our students with them, because some of our students hopefully will go on to UC Berkeley. Let's hope. I also have with us today DART, which is the Drone and Robotic Technology Initiative, who I got to meet a couple of years ago and was absolutely blown out of the water when I went to their LIFT summit this past March, because they brought in everybody from the world of advanced air mobility, and it was extremely exciting and thrilling, and they're doing tremendous work for our students in the workforce development field. So today we have Josh Metz from DART, who's going to be moderating the panel this morning, and I'm going to turn it over to Josh.
All right, Pam, thank you very much, and thank you. Yeah. It was great to have you at the LIFT Summit and get a chance to make this connection with the Bay Area Community College Consortium and now the California group. And I'm going to open with a little overview of where DART is coming from. And let me see if I can get that to come up on the screen. Give me one moment here. And then I'll turn it over to our panelists. The reason I'm going to talk about DART is that we indeed have been working in the field of advanced air mobility and really the integration of emerging capabilities in autonomy, electrification, and how those converge to deliver growth opportunities in a variety of sectors. So this is our dartboard, and the blue lines there indicate some of the areas that we've seen opportunities since starting this work really back in 2017. We were involved with the redevelopment of Fort Ord down in Monterey County, and saw some things happening that pointed us in this direction. And so we're a public benefit corporation, and we have programs in workforce development, infrastructure, and ecosystem. So a lot of what we do is connect with industry, academia, government, and community-based organizations to realize the opportunities that these emerging technologies represent. And so that's some of the background. One of the we have the Joby aircraft up there on the right because Joby has found a home at the former Fort Ord with their manufacturing operations, and that was really one of the catalysts for our involvement. But you can see that what's really compelling from the standpoint of rural California and counties outside the Bay Area is that there's opportunities in this emerging sector along with the traditional hubs in the Bay Area. And so we focus a lot on that. And, I just want to point out that, while Pam indicated there are some technicalities in terms of future certification of aircraft to carry people, there's a lot going on, as you well know, in existing applications of autonomous systems, drones for different use cases. You hear about it in the news all the time, and certainly the national security apparatus is the largest market, but there's huge potential for good. And so infrastructure inspection, wildfire response and support, moving people, and in agriculture. And so those are the Joby, Wisk, and Pica aircraft down there below. So those are things to pay attention to for your students and your programs. And we have identified, especially in the advanced air mobility category, these opportunities for community college, certainly moving into 4-year and the engineering degree pathway is well understood, but we have found that there's a huge need for all kinds of technician roles in advanced manufacturing, electric aircraft maintenance, aerospace and ground operations, and field operations, among others. And to make this all work, especially for the moving of people and goods, there's going to be new infrastructure required. So all of that is opportunity for our community, and the community college has a huge role to play in that. I just wanted to call out 2 recent funding awards that the state of California has made in terms of supporting the growth of this sector. One is a large award to the University of California Natural Resources, $15 million across the state to support the movement towards improved ag tech integration. And so one of the components of that is a whole curriculum for drone education. We find that the drone education is really the gateway drug for aerospace today. And so it's a great way to engage students at an early age. Down in the Monterey Bay area in the Central Coast, there was another big award made, $7.5 million to support the growth of an air mobility innovation corridor that will link general aviation airports to existing nodes to further the capabilities of the companies represented here to develop and test and expand in California. That's all really important for retaining jobs and growing our economy. So if you want to hear more about this, Pam mentioned it, our LIFT Summit is in March of next year, and we'd love to have more community college folks involved. And so with that, I'd like to turn to our esteemed panel, which is an incredible group of people and companies and education providers that you'll hear from. And I'll pass it next to Monisha White from Pica to do a little introduction and tell you about herself and her company. And then we'll get into some Q&A as we get into it. Thank you. You can pull your guy up there.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here to talk to you about Pica. Pica is a robotics company on a mission to build the most useful autonomous aircraft on Earth. I want to start with a video so you can actually see our planes in action.
Pica was founded in 2017 by 4 entrepreneurs with a vision to bring society a safer, cleaner, and more cost-effective form of transportation enabled by autonomous electric aircraft. But to get there, we have taken a very different approach than most. First, we gave up on the vertical takeoff and landing requirements of past aircraft we had developed in order to dramatically simplify our products and increase their range. And second, we wanted to bring an autonomous electric aircraft to market as fast as humanly possible. So we targeted use cases that have an inherent tolerance of risk and an immediate need for innovation. We started with the most dangerous commercial aviation mission on Earth, which is crop dusting. And then the question for us was, can we actually show an end-to-end proof of these autonomous electric capabilities, really demonstrate their significance to customers? So that is exactly what we did. We identified the requirements for the market and designed an extremely innovative product to fit those requirements that incorporates just dozens of proprietary technologies, ranging from batteries to motor controllers to motors, and the entire flight control stack and avionics underneath that. We then secured precedent-setting regulatory approvals for the aircraft, which allows us to operate commercially in the United States, in Brazil, and much of Latin America. We delivered to some of the biggest players in the market, including Dole and Embraer, and ramped production to roughly 1 aircraft per month while racking up over 5,000 flights. On top of that, we answered the market's demand for a large-scale, zero-emission cargo aircraft by launching an exciting new product, Pelican Cargo. Today, we've delivered Pelican Cargo to customers including the United States Air Force Research Lab, as well as Skyport's drone services. And we managed to pull all of this off with roughly $30 million spent. With 5 years of commercial operation under our belt and customers across 3 different continents, Pika is by far the leader in commercializing large-scale autonomous electric aircraft. We're now rapidly scaling up production in the Bay Area with an eye towards significant revenue growth in the next couple of years, as well as a fast path to profitability.
I'm still going. So Pika was founded in 2017 in the Bay Area. The company actually started in Michael, the CEO's parents' backyard in Stanford, California, where our 4 co-founders built the very first prototype of a Pika plane that actually flew successfully. We've now grown to around 80 employees, and we operate in a 110,000 square foot production facility in Alameda Point. So this is our whole team, our people and dogs in our facility in Alameda. We have, in addition to our production facility, we have 2 test sites that are each about an hour away, and we are actively flying our aircraft there every single day. Our founders really wanted our products to actually make a real-world impact quickly. We identified use cases that are very risky and where our aircraft would have an immediate benefit to our customers. We started with crop dusting, which is the most dangerous flight mission on Earth. Just to give you a bit of a sense of this, a pilot who has a 40-plus year career as a crop duster has about a 15% chance of dying on the job. We launched our agricultural aircraft as a safer, cleaner, and more cost-effective alternative to the conventional crop dusting methods. One, there's no pilot on board. It's zero emission. It massively reduces the drift of the chemicals that are spraying that can be really harmful to neighboring communities and neighboring farms. And it reduces the use of these chemicals up to 15%, which, in addition to being more environmentally friendly, also creates significant cost savings. In 2021, we then launched our Pelican Cargo, which is the aircraft on the left. It has about 80% shared commonality with our agricultural aircraft, so we reused a lot of the same design choices and then made modifications to support the new use cases. We created this product as a zero-emission commercial logistics platform designed to enable deliveries of critical supplies to remote, rural, and hard-to-get-to locations. We're now actually expanding the capabilities of our cargo aircraft to support humanitarian, disaster relief, and defense use cases as well. We're actually excited to be launching the next generation of Pelican Cargo soon, so stay tuned for the launch of this aircraft. On the regulatory side, we've achieved industry-first milestones. Pika today is the largest autonomous aircraft authorized by the FAA for commercial use in the United States. Additionally, we have a lot of overseas operations, so we've also received comparable authorization for commercial use in several other countries, including Brazil, Honduras, Costa Rica, and New Zealand. And not only are we authorized to fly in the United States commercially, we actually have our products in the hands of customers and are doing real work around the world. These are a few of the locations where we have active customers and our products are currently operating commercially. The customers listed here are most of our publicly announced customers. We'll also be announcing actually a handful of additional customers who haven't yet been disclosed in the coming months. Right now, we're gearing up to ramp up production in 2026 to satisfy a massive demand from our existing and our new customers. And then zooming out, we really see industrial use cases as just the start. In the future, we aim to leverage our experience and our expertise to then move into passenger carrying autonomous aircraft as well. We see the current operations that we're doing as really extremely meaningful and impactful in their own right. And we also see these as positioning us really well to expand into passenger carrying with thousands and thousands of flights under our belt. In order to support the production ramp up, to support our increasing customer operations and the continued development of our current and new products, we are hiring. We need to grow our team. We're bringing on technicians, operators, and engineers across our teams and looking to bring them on in departments including manufacturing and supply chain, in our flight operations, both at our local test sites, as well as deploying to our customer sites, and in engineering, in hardware engineering. At Pika, our mission really depends on talented people as much as the cutting edge technology that we've developed. And I'm really excited to be here to talk today about how we can grow the workforce that makes this future possible. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Monisha. Next, I'll let Dr. Pavan Yedavali introduce himself. Here. Okay.
Let's see. Sorry.
Who knows the quick prompt to get the PDF to show up?
That's an excellent question. Let's see here.
Close your tools.
Yeah. Oh.
There you go.
All right. And then,
Oh, is it not showing?
oh no. Let me try to enter. Let's see.
We'll get the slideshow in a moment here as soon as we get our engineering expert to figure out the tech.
All right, let's see. Let me, is there a present here? Let's see.
Sharing via Zoom.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
here's the solution.
Yeah.
So we'll stop our screen share here.
And then we'll just do the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
There you go. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
now. Yeah. So hit that red stop
Yeah,
button
right.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Where's our tech guy?
Oh, there it is. There.
There you go.
Yeah. Hmm.
All right. It's on Zoom anyhow.
All right. That's on Acrobat. It's let's see.
1 second. 1 second.
You know what I can do? I'm gonna go.
View full screen mode might be that.
Is in order. Yeah, exactly. It's on Acrobat. All right. Let me try.
There you go.
Do we know Finder here? Let's. Let me try the PowerPoint version instead.
There you go.
All right.
PowerPoint
Yep.
version.
And then let me go here. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, Zoom should be screen 2, I think, and then it's just you have to slideshow to the screen. I think when you start from
Yeah.
There you go. That should, no?
No.
when you
Yeah.
start the slideshow, it automatically goes to the
Well,
screen.
okay. There.
Oh, now you got 25 things. Slideshow there. Start. There we go.
There we go. All right.
So for the educators in the room, which
takes
is
a little bit, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it, Josh. I'm Pavan Yadavalli. I lead our system simulation and product intelligence efforts at Whisk Aero. So I'll be like fairly focused here and talk about what Whisk does and generally how we're really looking at the future of advanced air mobility as it relates to workforce development and really the future of what we hope, transportation to look like in the coming decades. So with that being said, Whisk, we are essentially building fully autonomous electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. So there are, and what I mean by that is we are purely doing passenger aircraft, and that's what we're developing our aircraft for right now. And the whole idea is that we want to create a future where there's autonomous aircraft carrying people across major metro areas like the Bay Area, for instance, across the world. And the whole idea is to really try to bring people, communities, aviation all together in one beautiful combination of what new mobility might look like. So, the goal and our mission is really to deliver safe, everyday flight for everyone. So just kind of going into what autonomous eVTOLs are. So autonomy is obviously without a pilot, and the eVTOL part is actually that's short for electric vertical takeoff and landing. So what we're developing as our aircraft, which you see right there, is we're trying to develop an aircraft that does not require any runways, but instead can just vertically take off and land, and it does all of this fully autonomously. So the whole idea behind that, obviously safety is number one. We're trying to build an aircraft and an operation that is to 10 to the minus 9 safety levels, which is even more than what current commercial aviation does to this day. And that is the safest mode of transportation there is on Earth by seat mile. And of course, outside of safety, very sustainable. And the goal at scale is to make it as affordable as possible. Well, obviously, we're focusing on going toward passenger transport first, which we obviously believe is not only challenging, but hopefully the holy grail as well. We are looking into other use cases as well: cargo, medical, emergency services. As Cody will certainly talk about representing Joby, piloted operations are expected soon. So very, very exciting there. So we're going to really see this industry start to grow and start to understand how folks are riding on the aircraft and what sort of benefit advanced air mobility will give. Autonomous operations, Whisk in particular, will really start shortly thereafter. So we're kind of going directly to autonomy. And just at the bottom here, there's a lot of potential. A lot of folks are really, really excited about what the future of advanced air mobility will do to society, to communities, and ultimately to adding well-paying jobs and contribute to economic output. So just kind of putting into perspective a couple of numbers here. By 2035, we're expecting up to 280,000 well-paying jobs across the U.S. So with that being said, Whisk, I'll quickly go into a very, very quick history. We started off as Larry Page, one of the founders of Google, a bit of his pet project, almost 15 years ago as Z Aero. And from there, over time, we started developing many generations of aircraft, which I'll get into in just a moment. But now, to this day, we became a joint venture between Boeing and Kitty Hawk several years ago. And then just a couple of years ago, we became a fully wholly owned independent subsidiary of Boeing. So with all of that, with this decade of experience, we've actually flown thousands of test flights of our different generations of aircraft. So, issued hundreds of patents. We have employees across the world. Predominantly here, our headquarters are in Mountain View, but we have folks in Canada, in Poland, in New Zealand, and Australia. So just a quick history of flight. We started with our Gen 1, which was back in 2011, and started developing that. This was a smaller aircraft, but fully autonomous. And you can kind of see that we jumped across generations up to our Gen 5 aircraft between autonomous and piloted. As you can imagine, there are so many different learnings that we can gain from having both versions, so that we can understand what the most optimal solution would be for an autonomous aircraft ultimately. So we've flown Gen 5, which is our Cora aircraft, thousands of times, and it's been very, very exciting to take those learnings into what our current aircraft that we're developing is, which is our Wisk Generation 6 aircraft. So this is intended to be the first FAA certified commercial autonomous passenger aircraft. So just a couple of specs here on this aircraft. It's autonomous, but autonomy doesn't mean, set it and forget it. As hopefully, being all in the Bay Area right now, hopefully at some point folks have been able to take Waymos, maybe in San Francisco. I know it's happening in San Jose now, but the whole idea is there's remote supervision. A lot of supervision of the aircraft, constant communication with the aircraft. So there's constant human oversight. The capacity of the aircraft is four people. The dimensions, we have about a 50-foot, well, a little less than 50 feet in wingspan. The range of the aircraft is about 90 miles. So that covers the bulk of the Bay Area. Our 9-county Bay Area. So it's, and I'll jump into what we're seeing in the Bay Area itself, but there's a lot of potential to carry people with the goal of having them save time or, provide a unique experience altogether. And then because it's all electric, so that's the E part of the eVTOL, we expect at the infrastructure, which are known as vertiports, we expect that those will be charging, in just a few minutes, up to 15 minutes, and then off to the next. So if you can imagine a little bit of, and this is kind of in my dream world, we have a lot of dense infrastructure sites, not dissimilar to a subway network, maybe not that many, but, very, very much a beautiful marriage between public transit right now and aviation. Because obviously we're going to have a lot of work with everything associated with aviation and things to do at the infrastructure sites. So why autonomy? Monisha actually touched on it as well. So there's safety. Safety is first and foremost. The bulk of accidents right now are often due to errors that are occurring due to humans. It's also related to scalability. At scale, it will bring costs down, and then it's maintenance. Ultimately, the aircraft will be significantly easier to maintain over time. So one thing we really focus on here at Wisk is accessibility, and this is accessibility for the riders as well as those at infrastructure itself. So we do a lot of work with those who are disabled. We get a lot of user research about what the experience needs to be to accommodate a good experience for everyone. So you can see here, we've brought people into our headquarters, actually have them test out our aircraft to see exactly what are the pain points, how do we improve the design. And similarly, things relate to accessibility as we kind of take an Uber right now or a Lyft right now or a Waymo. We'll probably have something similar where we're using our phones to schedule flight. And, trying to understand what exactly that user experience should be is very, very important. So very, very quickly on the regional benefits of AAM, the whole idea, again, is to augment the transportation network. A lot of my research actually at UC Berkeley was trying to understand what the impacts of AAM are on metropolitan environments. And the reality is that we're going to see that this will be a very, very valuable mode to the overarching transportation network. But it's not necessarily going to relieve the congestion that we see on 101 or on 880 every day. What we do hope to do is we intend to have it actually provide a service that is very much necessary to allow for longer distance travel for very short times. So in the end, it still took almost an hour 20 for me to come from San Francisco down to Santa Clara. In an ideal world, that would be cut down significantly, and maybe there's an opportunity for that. So commuter time, reducing pressure on existing infrastructure, and the last couple of things that are very much related to today is workforce development. So just looking at the Bay Area very quickly, and this is a lot of the work that my team does, is related to software simulation and demand modeling to understand where we should place our infrastructure and what sort of benefit this will provide for riders. So you can see that in the Bay Area, we could have almost several 100,000 passengers per day who may take this. Obviously at the service level, what we can actually serve based on our fleet sizes and things of that nature, based on infrastructure, will be significantly lower than that. But just to show exactly what the potential of AAM is in the Bay Area is significant. And obviously you can imagine other places like New York, Tokyo, Chicago, LA, we're starting to talk about a really, really valuable mode of transportation. So I'll just end on a couple of things that we've been working on at WISC, and in particular in California. We did a case study down in LA in the Long Beach area with Cal State Long Beach. And essentially it was an economic development study that we did in tandem with Cal State Long Beach. And what we found is we wanted to understand the impact, the economic development impact of developing AAM as part of the transportation network down in LA. And so there were several different areas of opportunity where jobs will be created, good, nice, well-paying jobs that will require enormous amount of training, but also a great amount of potential knowledge in a variety of industries. So, in construction, at scale, we're talking about over 2,000 jobs annually from operations at the vertiports themselves. We're talking about maintenance, the passenger experience, terminal facilities, all of these things, not dissimilar to commercial aviation today. We're going to need some level of that at the infrastructure that is being developed. So that's on the infrastructure side, and obviously on the aircraft side, we're talking about operations with air traffic management, with ATC. All of these things are actually going to be enormous opportunities for jobs. And one thing I'll mention is just as we're starting to see a lot of the generative AI, these types of things really coming into our lexicon a little bit about how jobs are shifting now. What we're finding is exactly that, is that there are going to be new versions of jobs. While we focus on autonomy, there's going to be a significant requirement for other skill sets and other knowledge. And that's what we're trying to understand and work toward as well. So we're very, very excited. Down in Long Beach in particular, we hosted Long Beach Community College students and really talked about what the potential is for contributing to this industry in the coming decades. So, this is just a start, and we're really trying to get everyone very much involved and excited about what advanced air mobility and autonomous advanced air mobility is in the future. So I'll end there. And yeah, very, very excited and very honored to be here to talk a little bit more about the industry. So thank you.
Thank you, Pavan. And next, we'll have our colleague Cody Cleverly from Joby.
Thank you,
Do your thing.
All right, we'll see if Zoom cooperates again here. We went way off the rails, I think for some good reasons a few minutes ago, so give me a second. And as I get this deck pulled up, I'm going to also go way off script here because there's a lot of similarities across our three companies, which is, I think, a trend that is really important for you all to see as educators. Let's see, I've lost Zoom.
Yes.
Well, it would have before, but we changed the settings, but it's working now. Yeah, cool. Good. So I'm going to go off script here and highlight some key facts that kind of build on what my colleagues at my competitors talk to you about. I can't believe they even let us sit next to each other up here. In fact, I was untying his shoes while he was getting ready to stand up to see if I could embarrass him a little bit before he came up here. But I think one thing I want you to all take away as educators about this industry is that it's a huge emerging industry that's going to absolutely change our world in tremendous ways. And it's represented by the fact that there's three of us in an industry full of players who are advancing this new sector of aerospace. And I'll also emphasize, from a workforce standpoint, what's incredible about this new sector of aviation and aerospace is it in no way cannibalizes the existing industry. In almost no ways, in very, very small ways. For example, the regional airlines, the large airlines like Delta and United, they're going to continue doing what they're doing. The concepts that we're talking about here, and we use the term advanced air mobility or urban air mobility to really illustrate this urban ride-sharing service, which is ultimately what the three of us have our sights set on, right? As Manisha shared, crop dusting and these other really important things are an important part of the industry segment, but ultimately passenger carriage is where the bulk of the industry is going. And that creates demand for air transportation that has never existed in human history, and thus creates demand for extra jobs that haven't existed before in aerospace and aviation. And it's happening right here in California, particularly on the Central Coast and in the Bay Area, as you're seeing from those of us who are here to share about our companies. So I'll go quick through Joby so that you just get a broad perspective of kind of what's happening in the industry. Joby is a pretty large player in the space with over 2,000 employees, primarily between San Carlos and Marina, California on the Monterey Peninsula, and growing considerably. So if you go to our website, you'll see that we have hundreds of jobs posted today for your graduates that are coming out of your programs. We're a vertically integrated transportation company, and really what that means is we do virtually everything in-house. So rather than, typically in aerospace, an aircraft OEM or original equipment manufacturer will outsource as much of the aircraft as they can, and they'll kind of assemble it together into an aircraft design and then sell it to operators. At Joby, we've decided to bring all of that in-house. So if you go to that third line there, we develop, test, manufacture, and it says soon we'll operate, and I guess soon we'll operate it commercially, but we're already operating our aircraft in partnership with the Department of Defense. And what that vertical integration means for all of you and for all of us in this region and across the state from a workforce standpoint is there is a tremendous diversity of jobs that are coming up in this industry for graduates of the community college system. So we have it looks like I have a font issue there, but we have a core aircraft product that we've developed over the last 15 years that kind of serves as our flagship product that we think will help, along with my colleagues here at the other companies, to help pioneer this air taxi industry. And our aircraft, unlike the ones you heard about before, is a piloted aircraft. So we've made the choice to bring a piloted aircraft to market for a host of regulatory and public acceptance reasons, right? So that kind of goes without saying. And I'm thrilled that you're pushing the limits on autonomy safely. So thank you. So that when our autonomy division, Joby has an autonomy division, we fly aircraft autonomously on conventional platforms, so that this aircraft that you see here that's piloted either will have a variant a few years down the line that's autonomous, or this aircraft will see block upgrades to be autonomous as well. So I think I'm illustrating that even though Joby, you hear about what we're doing if you go read our press releases. While we're launching a piloted aircraft, we have our sights set on autonomy as well. So it kind of illustrates where this industry is going in the context of everything you're hearing about over the next few days. But similar to what you've heard, it's an all-electric aircraft. It takes off and lands vertically, 100-mile range. So that really doubles down on the urban air mobility mission, right? We're not talking about flying from one end of the state of California to the other. We're talking about connecting people inside the Bay Area. We're talking about connecting the Bay to the Bay, right? And that's really where all of this traffic is. So I'll play this video to kind of try to give you a visual picture of the diversity of jobs that I talked about in this industry, and specifically at Joby in this case. Okay, so I'll skip some of this go-to-market stuff, and I'll hit a few key points so we can get into the meat of the panel here. But we're talking about flying taxis, right? That's ultimately what this business segment is all about. And so, in a few years, you'll expect a similar experience that you have with Uber or Lyft for air taxis. In fact, we have key operational partnerships and investments from both Delta and Uber, who are key operational partners, and will be integrated into the Uber app. So you'll be able to book a Joby in the Uber app. You'll be able to book an Uber in the Joby app, ultimately creating what we call a seamless multimodal ride-sharing experience. So here's an example of a route network to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of what's the actual experience going to look like. This is an example in New York City. And this route starts at the downtown heliport in Manhattan and arrives at JFK Airport in Queens. So that's a 7-minute flight in a Joby aircraft. And by car, well, we're saying 49 minutes. Raise your hand if you've driven from Manhattan to JFK. Okay, we got some people. Somebody shouted out, how long does it take to drive from JFK to Manhattan? Hour and a half is what everyone's saying. Okay, good. Yeah, rush hour, which is most of the day, sometimes over 2 hours, right? 49 minutes is at 2 a.m. And miraculously, all the potholes were repaired, right, just before you drove this route. But this illustrates how tremendous the time savings really are by bringing travel into the third dimension. And that's really why this industry segment, why we're creating these products. And this is an example, just building on the Whisk slide, of what a route network might look like in the Bay Area to connect, like I said, the Bay to the Bay. Because the issue, getting around the Bay is the real problem. Getting across the Bay is the real problem, right? And so bringing people into the skies is a key part of that experience. Of course, like I said, it's a piloted aircraft that carries up to 4 passengers. And I had another slide in here that didn't transfer from my USB drive well, that actually played some audio of how quiet the aircraft is. it didn't work. So you'll have to go to YouTube and watch some YouTube videos. We also actually just launched an iPhone app called Joby Sounds, where you can download the app and hear our aircraft with different urban backgrounds and things in the background. You can compare it to helicopters, which is always fun to hear how much quieter electric aircraft can be when they're designed properly. But we got some academics in here. So decimals are a logarithmic scale, right? Orders of magnitude difference in sound. And so, the Joby aircraft is fewer than 50 decibels at 700 feet flying overhead compared to a comparable size helicopter at 65 decibels. And for those of you who vacuum, raise your hand if you've ever used a vacuum. Yeah, okay. Some of you are staring at me like, I'm not gonna raise my hand. Because we all know you've never vacuumed, most of you. But a vacuum puts out 75 decibels, right? So when you vacuum your living room, you're exposed to more decibels than our aircraft will expose you to flying over urban cities across the world. And there's my video that I thought I took out that's broken. So find it on YouTube. You'll be glad you did. Again, just to kind of double down on the fact that these are real jobs right here in our backyard. This is the Joby footprint. There's a few of our facilities aren't on this map because they're small and growing facilities, but our 4 primary facilities, San Carlos, so closest to home here, is where we do our powertrain and electronics manufacturing. So it's where we make all of our batteries, all of our electric motors, all of our circuit boards, all of our flight computers, etc. Santa Cruz is our headquarters, and we have some R&D work happening in Santa Cruz as well. We have a training academy in Watsonville where we train pilots and mechanics, a public offering for folks with zero experience in aviation. They can come into our academy and learn to become a pilot or a mechanic. And then in Marina down near Monterey is where we're actually manufacturing our aircraft. We've ramped capacity to about 12 aircraft per year at that facility, and we'll double that capacity in the next 12 to 18 months there in Marina. And all of that's happening in California. And over 80% of the aircraft components are made right here in our backyard. Hopefully in the next few years by your graduates. And I'm actually going to stop there so we can get into the panel, because I want to hear what you want to know about this industry. And actually, we're not getting into the panel. We're getting into the best part, but I don't want to prolong things any further.
Thanks, Cody. Yeah, so with all these great companies growing here, there's just a couple things I would like to point out is that all of this is in such early stages, and you've heard each of them talk about the longer vision. So I think the opportunity for growth is like it's a new renaissance in the aviation for the Bay Area and for California. So really exciting time. And it wouldn't have happened as well or as quickly without UC Berkeley and other key research institutions here. So go Bears. Go Bears. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Jasenka Rakis, who's going to tell you all about some of the exciting things happening up there. Let's end this, and you can get into your thing.
It's called here.
This one?
No.
This one?
Yeah.
And let me see if I can do this. Boom.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for your patience. You can see how competitors can be nice and civilized here. And yes, they do deserve a round of applause. So why am I here? Well, UC Berkeley is a state university, and UC Berkeley has a very good reputation and history about working with community colleges. And personally, because I teach aviation courses, I teach sustainable aviation and infrastructure and airport systems design, students who transfer to our engineering program from community colleges are usually at that, well, these are senior undergrad classes, they are the most enthusiastic, the most resourceful, the most eager to learn and create, and often the most innovative. So in light of that, we will be also discussing how further UC Berkeley and our Institute of Transportation Studies, and what I'm going to talk about is our UC Berkeley Mobility Hub at one of our facilities at Richmond Field Station, are all working together, hopefully, to bring and to collaborate with community colleges and to bring and transfer more of these young talents into our engineering program. Our, as you know by reputation, UC Berkeley is the world-renowned university as a ranked #1 public university in the world. Our engineering program is ranked #1, and our students really, as you get to Berkeley and near these engineering schools, you can get that vibe and that energy and enthusiasm that comes with these young, bright minds. So to support all of that and to support and collaborate on this new innovative way of bringing or transporting people through emerging concepts such as urban air mobility. Urban air mobility is just one of the emerging concepts that further transport people, and our UC Berkeley Mobility Hub, which was recently created at the Richmond Field Station, which is a property of UC Berkeley, very close to Berkeley, but in Richmond, which was created not that long ago, is a part of our Institute of Transportation Studies, and our institute is the oldest, and our transportation library is the oldest in the country. Our students transportation students, engineering students, spend long hours there studying and working on their homework assignments and term projects. But the ITS as a big institute under now the guidance and leadership of Justin Wiley, who is our strategy and development director. And Justin is right in the back as a boss. Yes, please. You will be hearing from him during probably the last part of this session and during the break about all these exciting opportunities that UC Berkeley is now having with community colleges. This 140-acre piece of land is more than just simple Richmond Field Station for advancing transportation and advancing mobility. This new Berkeley Mobility Hub serves as a real world testbed, and not only for one type of research and operations. UC Berkeley is well known for connected and autonomous vehicles design and system that connects them. At this mobility hub, we further develop zero emissions vehicles and new energy sources. Hydrogen is a big innovation area that ITS researchers are working on through various research centers that are under the Institute of Transportation Studies. We have a research thrust at the Berkeley Mobility Hub about public transportation and shared mobility, about fleet, freight and logistics, and then advanced aviation. Anything from drones, eVTOLs, and you've heard from our developers what kind of eVTOLs we have, how different concepts can be used to bring these eVTOLs into the city and regional fabric, because one side of the story is to develop a vehicle. Well, you have to develop a system, and then you have to actually bring that system into your communities. And as with the noise, when we originally started building airports, that wasn't a big problem. Citizens who live south of LAX airport and El Segundo were powerful enough to stop the expansion of and the number of gates at LAX because of the noise issues. So my point is that it is extremely important to work with your communities to get their approval of your new concepts. And although the aircraft might be very quiet, maybe visual pollution might be another problem. So working with these communities, as I said, would be very important. We also have research on connected and digital infrastructure, and that is basically an underlying piece of infrastructure that enables flights of drones or eVTOLs or connected vehicles. So these are some of the new facilities, new automated vehicle test track, new signal lab, new drone park training facility. And with all these facilities under the leadership now of Justin, Berkeley is positioned again as a global center for next generation mobility research, how to make it into the real world and make it commercial, and how to create a workforce. And we have also through the ITS various other initiatives where our knowledge can be transferred into the real world, where our former students are now leaders at one of these eVTOL developer companies. So, as I said, this is the very unique university that welcomes community college students. It is very famous for what we call the social mobility. Students from at our university often come as students from underprivileged backgrounds. A large percentage of students are actually first-generation college students, and that gives that diversity and that enthusiasm brings us to that next level where we are now, where we are the best public university in the world. Our UC Berkeley Mobility Hub is now this unique opportunity to fill this growing industry need for advanced vehicle testing across different transportation verticals and modes. And this hub creates a scalable ecosystem for research, commercialization, and workforce development, and that benefits the university, our partners, and more importantly, the public, because we are the public university, and we are very much aware of it because it is your taxpayers' tax money that we live on. So we are trying to make the best out of it. Thank you. I wanted to also just share with you this link. We will be having on October 23rd and the 24th AI Mobility Workshop, and Justin might share maybe during the panel discussion a few words about this workshop. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Jasenka. Well, I would love to invite you all to the panel discussion, but we've had such a great set of talks that we have actually expended our time for the panel. So what I would like to invite you to do, some of us will stick around. I know some of us have calls to run off to, but some of us will stick around, and we'd love to take questions over here on the side if that's something you want to do, or out in the lobby if this, we can stay here. So we can stay here. Maybe if, can we keep talking if we can stay here? Well, if anyone has to leave to the next session, you may do so, but if you would like to stick around here, it doesn't seem like we have to run out right away. So we can take a couple of questions or comments from the audience. Does that sound right? Sir.
First off, I want to thank you for your panel. I'm with Novorx for the Workforce Board. We work very close with our community college partners. I've worked in multiple states before, and in supporting aviation programs, the A&P, the Airframe and Power Plant License, is a very common credential that colleges and workforce boards can really focus on to produce a skilled talent pipeline. Do you foresee any equivalency to that, where one program can meet multiple employer needs can leverage a lot of synergy around training, workforce, and employer needs. Thank you.
You want to start? No?
Go ahead.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay, good. Yeah, this is, I actually had a slide on this. One of the slides I skipped was about this very issue. So all of you have heard about the pilot shortage, right, in the mainstream media. There's not enough pilots, there's not enough pilots. It's true. I'm a pilot, and Joby only hired me because there weren't enough of me, right? So I'm a lucky recipient of the shortage. But the mechanic shortage is far worse, even though there's not mainstream media coverage for the mechanic shortage. And even my colleagues here who are developing autonomous aircraft need a lot of mechanics, right? So there's a huge pain across the industry already. And as I said before, we're creating, thank you. Josh knows my slides well. So this represents Oliver Wyman's study that shows that by, I think, 2027, they're predicting a shortage of 8,000 mechanics across the U.S. And this does not take into account the advanced air mobility industry that we just described to you today. So this is just our conventional aviation industry. So the reality is there's a huge gap there already. The other reality is that the airframe and power plant certification is a Federal Aviation Administration certification. You're not authorized to perform maintenance on an aircraft without this certification. You have to have it. The problem is it doesn't teach anything about electric aircraft. So there's a big gap there. But the other problem is, I don't know if there's any community colleges, Gavilan or Cuesta College, or the closest in our region here in the room, but they don't have room in their curriculum to add anything about electric aircraft because of the nature of the FAA requirements. And so there's a lot of work that needs to go into there. What we know needs to happen is we need more academic institutions creating aircraft mechanics who have that certification, and then we need more industry partnerships with academic institutions, nonprofits, and others to bring that additional electric aircraft training, like the advanced manufacturing or the advanced maintenance technician apprenticeship program that DART created in partnership with Joby to create an apprenticeship path to both the airframe and power plant certification and the electric aircraft training that allows technicians over 2.5 years to get all that training while they earn and learn on the job training. So more to discuss there for sure. It's a huge issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll quickly double down on what Cody was saying and add a little bit more from that autonomy piece as well. Just in that electric powertrain, electric mechanic for aircraft, we're obviously going to have another aspect of that that's really related to autonomy, integration technicians and things of that nature that are basically very, very much tied into the operation of the aircraft itself. That will very much be a new occupation altogether that we're kind of trying to understand and develop now. So that's yet another aspect of it that I'll just quickly add. Thanks.
There's a button on the bottom that you have to press and hold. Long press. Yeah, long press till you see a green light. And then flip the switch near the top too. I can't figure out Zoom, but I know how to work myself around a microphone, that's for sure. We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
So I was thinking, given the shortage and how long it takes us to actually build up a program in our community colleges, what do you see as potentials of transferable paths that would lead into some of your workforce needs, as well as, one of the things that would be nice, similar to the apprenticeship route, would be almost like a bridge to your industry. So we have advanced manufacturing, we have our automotive programs that are in electrical autonomous space that we're, moving into and getting students through. Can those then lead into something that we would then be able to partner with?
I think so many of the things and the people you're already training are extremely valuable for a lot of roles at our companies. I think some of the skills that I talked with a number of my leaders about what are the skills that you're most looking for in people to enter into our technician, operator, engineering, honestly all roles. And some of the kind of critical things they talked about are practical problem solving, creating simple solutions to complex problems, ability to work in fast-paced learning environments, so flexibility, adapting to kind of changing requirements and such, and then hands-on skills and experience. And I really want to emphasize the hands-on skills and experience. Like everyone I talk to and every role I've hired for, essentially, that is working on the plane in any capacity is looking for what have you actually built, what have you actually assembled. So I think, and we look to not just what you're doing in school, but also projects in your own. So I think that like the more you can, for us at least, or my experience is the more you can get people out of just theory and actually building and assembling things, fixing things, kind of debugging things, and encouraging project work on their own, the better. Like if people take time to work on their bike, the motorcycle, build something at home. Yeah, those are some skills that are really valuable.
That's great.
Yeah.
And the community colleges are your best friend. They don't do all of them.
Totally. Totally.
So I think the challenge, though, if I look at your job descriptions, because I opened up some of them,
Yeah.
each of your conversations, they all require 3 to 5 years of some experience in your industry. So how do we translate all of the skills that students are building in our programs that are technical, that are hands-on, might be in electrical tech, it might be in advanced manufacturing, it might be to get into your industry. That's the challenge.
That's-
We would love to partner.
That's a really great question, and I'm really excited about the idea of, and I need to talk to I would definitely need like the buy-in of some of the managers on those teams, but I know they're excited about the potential of having like internship or co-op programs, and I think like having a partner of a college, like I'm excited to be here and hopefully just have exposure to people knowing me, to build partnerships where people in colleges like are actually partners in creating exposure and being excited.
Alameda.
Like, great.
Then you should.
The Pam was just telling me about it. College of Alameda. Great.
Heike, you are doing that. You're doing that right now. You're partnering with us on a project where community college students are going to get to do that.
Amazing.
I'll tell you more about what we're doing.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would just take a moment to mention some of the work that we've been able to do down in Monterey in this regard has really been about addressing exactly what you're talking about, and through apprenticeship model has really worked well. And we've also worked with the Workforce Board to do internship programs, and increasingly with each of the community colleges to align kind of short-term work experience opportunities that meet the need that Joby and other players have down there. So
Yeah, I'm in Southern California, so if anybody wants to go to Orange County.
yeah, so we're talking to your Orange County business
they'll be able
people.
to do an apprenticeship, because I think it's really hard to do apprenticeship from down there.
Yeah, we've just been having good conversations with the Orange County Business Council, and also the South Coast Workforce Investment Board has some really good stuff going on in that regard.
I want to add one more thing to that question because I think it's actually something that I'm passionate about is getting people of different backgrounds and underrepresented populations into the workforce, and definitely being in an industry that is, I would love to see more diversity in the pipeline coming in. One of the messages that I really want to get out more is encouraging, and for us all to encourage people who don't check all of the boxes to still apply. I think like it's rare to find candidates who check every single box. So we like write preferred qualifications, and we've started shifting to doing preferred and required. So it's a little more clear like which are actually really necessary to have, but establishing and really encouraging students to apply to things even if they don't check all the boxes, and recognizing that it tends to shift towards underrepresented populations who don't apply to things that they don't check all the boxes for. So like all collectively kind of getting that message out, I think is really important. And then I think like adding into resumes, projects and such outside of just the careers that you've done. And yeah, I mean, I actually haven't seen portfolios really for technician role and operator roles. For like engineering roles, we really value portfolios and portfolios that show project work, things that you've actually built. And so, yeah, I don't know. I haven't talked about the idea of adding portfolios into some of those other roles, but in my head right now, I'm like, I think that would go a long way for our hiring managers to see, oh, you've actually built and made things on your own, even if not in this specific profession.
Yeah. That's great. Cody, do you want to add anything to that based on your experience with the way you frame the recruitments and things?
Sure, I'll briefly address specifically what you said about advanced manufacturing. I think one thing that we have going against us in California is everyone says you can't manufacture things in California. And for a long time, we all believed that it was true. And I think what we're finding down in Monterey County and San Mateo County, for that matter, with our aircraft manufacturing, is that we started manufacturing in California as a measure of necessity, co-located with our R&D efforts, because we didn't have time to spool up manufacturing elsewhere. We didn't have time. Turns out manufacturing in California works really well if you have the support systems in place. And so what I would love to see is more advanced manufacturing programs at the community colleges with an engineering lens, right? So they're not necessarily engineering degrees, but where people really get accustomed to building things and the hardware. And so, we're all excited about AI, that's why we're all here, but we're also all terrified about AI, right? Because of the job loss that's inevitable. And it's also going to make our world a better place in many ways. One antidote to that Silicon Valley really needs to further embrace is hardware, right? So when you have aircraft or other hardware, you need people to make that stuff. And yeah, there's advanced robotics and other things, but the point is people with hardware competence are a lot more competitive for these jobs. And as this industry continues to vertically integrate, like I talked about with Joby's business model, we have many manufacturing technicians with some of those technical competencies for engineering, moving into engineering roles without a 4-year degree. And we like them better than some of the 4-year degree graduates who have no experience with manufacturing, because they can hit the ground running providing engineering support to the manufacturing teams.
So we got one other question here and one over there, and then maybe we can wrap.
Sure. Mike Roberts, I'm with Creating Coding Careers. We are building the playbook for company-driven earn and learn pathways. So one of the things I do a lot of work with is apprenticeship degree pathways. One of our partners is Foothill. We also have 4-year partners like Western Governors University. And I'm curious, one of the populations we serve a lot of are transitioning service members, folks that have military experience, that within their last 6 months, we have a SkillBridge program where they can come SkillBridge, be reassigned their duty to train, and we put them on a pathway for apprenticeships and apprenticeship degrees. I'm curious if any of you have experience working with transitioning service members, and if you think that that population aligns with some of the experience that you're looking for, and then your thoughts on apprenticeship degrees in general.
I can quickly touch on it. To my knowledge, I'm not entirely sure whether WISC has a formal program for that, but given what we know about how we're developing the aircraft and the operations, having a former military background is absolutely invaluable to what we can do. And the reason for that, obviously, is having real operational and manufacturing capabilities, as well as being able to use the systems that are being developed and understanding exactly what the fail-safes are versus not. So one thing that I'll, pretty bluntly say is that autonomy is in the military right now, right? It has been in the military for a long time. So the usage of autonomy in different ways is going to be kind of the future. How do we use it for specific applications? And so even having a grounded understanding of how autonomous aircraft work, autonomous ground-based vehicles work, that is incredibly valuable for us and for the industry moving forward. And so I would say that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is obviously just having extensive experience with aircraft in general. Pilots, operational technician, maintenance. These are all things that will continue to remain, as Cody was mentioning, in electric vehicle, vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, and autonomous eVTOLs, and autonomous CTOLs. Everything in the future of aviation will still require many of those jobs that have already been essentially perfected by many military folks. So to that extent, I think it's now is a perfect opportunity to start thinking about how to build that pipeline for apprenticeships. So absolutely.
I have a critical word of caution. So we hire dozens of SkillBridge folks through SkillBridge every year, and you would expect that we have a huge pipeline of military folks. people talk about how challenging the transition from military to civilian is, because it really, really is extremely challenging. And the harsh reality is that these startup environments are in some cases the worst place for folks coming straight out of the military. You go from, and I don't have a military background. I've had many service members work on my team and report to me. And in their first few weeks and months, when they ask me what I want them to do, and I say, well, here's the problem, what do you think? Like, their brain like short circuits, right? Because they're used to being told like what to do, right? And in these egalitarian startup environments, that is not how we operate very often. And so I think the message there would be, I think a lot of times employers think about SkillBridge and other programs as like a try it before you buy it. Let's see if this works and if we like this person, and then bring them on full time. We should be coaching service members to look at it the same way and seize those opportunities to give them exposure to these like rapidly moving, highly dynamic environments, so they can decide if that's really the best first step for them coming out of the service. And then of course preparing them and the employers for actually setting people up for success is another huge challenge. So I think we have a long way to go to better supporting service members, primarily in these startup environments. Yeah.
Nice word of caution. There's one last question over here. If you want to grab the mic, maybe you could pass the mic over.
I'll just use my teacher voice.
Okay, use your teacher voice.
Awesome. So I was just curious what the interaction level is like for autonomous planes, these air taxis, et cetera, with air traffic controllers, and also considering that there's also a shortage of air traffic controllers in addition to pilots, as you mentioned, and mechanics. Is there like an industry discussion happening right now about how to meet those shortages?
Yeah, no, this is an absolutely excellent question, and it's something that we at WISC are grappling with on a day-to-day basis. We're discussing with the FAA. We're obviously very, very well in tune with all the NASA UTM work that's occurring. So air traffic control and air traffic management is arguably the most critical aspect of this entire system. And we've already seen without AAM, without these futuristic aircraft in the airspace, things are already getting tougher. So with all that being said, this is something that we're thinking about constantly, and we are working to understand exactly what skills are required, how to address that ATC shortage you were mentioning, and where like WISC and really all the players in AAM should be positioning themselves to make that a reality. What we're finding is, as I was mentioning, we do remote supervision, and that's how we do autonomy. Remote supervisors, our multi-vehicle supervisors, these folks will be very, very tied at the hip to air traffic control. And to be totally frank, it's going to be a different type of air traffic management that we're going to have. So we're trying to drum up and brainstorm and test and validate what skills and what positions will be additionally necessary for this new airspace. So all of that is to say, we're absolutely looking into it, and that's probably one of the most critical things that's top of mind. And this is obviously a huge area of opening for potential jobs in the industry that we're very, very aware of. So it's honestly very, very exciting, and now is the time that we're trying to build that pipeline.
Follow up.
Follow up on that. Sorry, I didn't mention my name and background. Ethan Runkle, Leader for Education at City College in Long Beach. And
Awesome.
so, if you're having those discussions and you're not already including community colleges at the table, I highly recommend, as one of my colleagues mentioned, getting us involved. So I know earlier was mentioned that we should create a curriculum.
Yes,
And then
yeah.
reach out to you guys for apprenticeships, but I would push back a little bit on that and say, let's have us at the table earlier and co-create the curriculum to meet your exact needs. And then also, if our students know there are job interviews waiting at the end of that program, we're going to successfully move students through those programs really quickly. So that would be my, suggestion and request for all of us here in the system.
Absolutely, and one thing I'll quickly add, we're working with Berkeley, with NASA, with other major players in the AAM space to actually understand what these operations can look like, both at early stages and at scale. And then by understanding that a little bit better, we can get a better picture of what requirements are necessary. So.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much to the panelists. Thank you, Pam, for organizing.